Hey guys, welcome to the clubhouse. I'm Billy Jackson, and today's review is going to be on Avengers Endgame. This is going to be my spoiler-heavy review, so I'm going to talk about everything in this movie that I love. So get ready, because here it comes. This movie starts out already hitting you with the reality of what's going on in their world. You know, Hawkeye's teaching his little girl, and his little girl in the comic books now is Hawkeye. So he's like, you see that he's training her, he even calls her Hawkeye. And then he turns around, trying to tell his wife and other kids that, mayonnaise or mustard on a hot dog? Mustard, please, of course. Then he turns around and his daughter's just dusted. And then, he doesn't know what's going on, but we do, because of the events of Infinity War. And then he turns over to the picnic table, and and I like how they shot it because it's an open field, so the kids couldn't be like hiding behind trees or running away or anything like that. You see the dust, flowing in front of him, and he sees it, but he doesn't really recognize the dust. We do, but he doesn't. And I thought that was so brilliant and just a great way to start this movie off. Just already going, oh my God, his family, because everybody was wondering where he was in Infinity War. That's where he was, and that's what happened to him. Bam, gave it to us in the first 5 minutes. Then, it's about all the characters getting together. Tony Stark is stuck in space with Nebula. And I thought that was great, him recording, his message to Pepper. And that was so cool because, you know what, that's something I would do for my woman. I'd make her a recording before I knew I was going to pass and make sure she knew I loved her. And he does that. And, man, Tony Stark is just friggin' awesome. Just from Iron Man 1, starting out as this pompous, rich kid that doesn't really care about anything but himself, has evolved into caring about the entire world. And not only caring about the entire world, but caring about his, love interest, Pepper Potts. And the chemistry between them since Iron Man 1 has been friggin' spot on, and I love their relationship. So anyway, I was loving that whole scene. Then Captain Marvel, of course, shows up, saves the day, and he's like, who's this chick? He has that look. They get back to Avengers headquarters, and Tony just has it out with Captain America. Just like, why? Remember, I told you I wanted a piece of armor around the world? Remember that? And y'all didn't want to do it because you didn't want to, risk certain freedoms. Here, we lost half the universe because you didn't want to, take my advice. You got to trust me, and I can't trust you. Even calls Captain America a liar. And I mean, dang, man, that was like powerful for me because he's like the most honest guy in the MCU. And it's just like, whew, man. And then he like falls out, and they take him, and then they're like, they take care of him and get him all set up, like, man, and you could see it. And I don't know if they like did some kind of, not de-aging technology, that's not the right word, but some kind of CGI to make him look skinnier and sickly, because he looked really sickly in that scene. And I was feeling for him, like, man, he has been through a lot. And that's what's great about the whole design of this whole film. They know what to do without having to tell you. You just pick it up. But anyway, then they're like, Tony was right. We got to go get this bitch. We got to go get him, man. Get Thanos. And, Miss Marvel is just like, I'm out of here. I'm going to go just kill him. And just stomps off like a beast, And they're like, look, we work as a team. We go together. So they get it all together. They go to see Thanos, and Thanos is just chilling on his farm, and, picking some big berries and making some soup or something. And he's just chilling because he knows he accomplished his mission. So he's not like wanting reward for what he's done or anything like that, or not even to be hated or anything. He just don't even care. He just wants to chill. And the Avengers show up and just pummel him right at the very beginning, man. I loved how this movie started out. And what does Thor do? And you could see the anger and disappointment in himself that Thor has for not going for the head in the first, not in the first movie, but in Infinity War. And man, he makes up for it because just right in the middle of the sentence, shabam, and just totally just cuts his head off. But before he does, Thanos reveals that, I used the stones to destroy the stones. And now, he's destroyed the stones, and now he's dead. So now the Avengers are just like, what do we do from here? I guess we move on for our lives, move on with our lives. And then it just flashes to 5 years later. And I liked how it just wasn't like 5 years later. They really made it sink in by just taking those few extra seconds to give it some dramatic effect, which it needed. 5 years later. Beautifully done. Very beautifully done. And then, you really see the aftermath of, it's been 5 years without half the population on Earth, and how people are dealing with this, losing loved ones, and, trying to move on with your life. And that would be hard to do if something like that happened. And I know they didn't touch on this, but if this actually happened in the real world, people just started disappearing into dust, you wouldn't think, oh, superheroes are fighting villains. People would think that's the rapture. People are gone because they're gone off to heaven or something. So I imagine if this was like a religious movie, it would just be insane. People would be going crazy all over the world. But anyway, it's not that kind of movie. But it made me think about that in this moment when they're sitting in a little like group session and having this discussion. I was just sitting there. I remember I've seen this movie twice, and the first time I saw it, I just remember thinking, man, people would really think that it was like the rapture if people just started disappearing and everything. And I wonder what that story would be like. But anyway, I digress. They move on. Then Ant-Man pops out, and just a little Easter egg. I did not notice this on the first watch, but on the second watch, the storage facility, that Ant-Man is in, it's labeled 616, 616. And for those of you who don't know, in the Marvel comic book universe, there's a whole myriad of dimensions and different, alternate realities. But the 616 universe is the universe that everybody knows is the original comic book universe, like created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby and all that. It's the original timeline in the actual comic book. So I thought that was really cool. And but there are a lot of Easter eggs in this, but I can't name them all because that would be a whole video itself. But anyway, notice that, and I did like how they had the mouse like run over the controls to let them out because heck, Disney. But anyway, I thought that was really really cool in itself, little tidbit that they gave us. But anyway, he comes out and starts noticing that everybody's gone. He goes to his daughter's house, like, oh my gosh, she's gone too. But she's there, and I loved how they were just like, you've gotten bigger, He embraces his daughter, and his daughter embraces him. To her, he's been gone for 5 years. He was dead, so she's been dealing with that for 5 years. For him, it's only been 5 hours, so he doesn't really understand what's going on except for just in that moment. But for her, it's been 5 years, and just, man, it's just such great writing in this movie. But anyway, moving on, he goes to Avengers headquarters, he gets together with everybody, and he's like, hey, I came through a time vortices, and what we need to do is do a time heist to get all of the Infinity Stones before Thanos gets them. Then they go into this whole timeline thing, and yes, there are some time plot holes in this movie, because I remember after the movie, I was like, well, wait a minute now. If they did this, blah, 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 me and my buddy had a very intense conversation about it. But he explained some stuff to me that made sense. So it makes sense to me, some of the plot holes, except for one at the end, and we'll get to that later. But anyway, they start going through, the different time portals, and they have different teams. Now they got their new mission to get the Infinity Stones and create their own gauntlet and snap everybody back into existence. Great plan. Let's do it. Then they start going through time, and that's the second hour of this movie is just the time travel, heist movie part of it. And it essentially felt like 3 different movies in this movie, which I loved. I thought that was brilliant. You got your first hour, you get, what's happened with everybody with the snapping and all that, and people turn to dust, how we're going to deal with this, blah, blah, blah. You get that in the first hour, and it's a lot of development on all the core characters. And not even development. These people have been developed for 22 movies, so it's not like you're going to go into this and get an origin story. It's all about the end of their story. And they really gave it to us, and everybody gets their good 10 or 15 minutes of time in this movie. And that's why this movie is so long, but I'm fine with that because they give us such great writing on these characters. So anyway, loving it so far. First hour. Second hour, let's get into the time travel. And then they start bouncing around to all the older movies. which was friggin' brilliant. You know, they go back to New York when the first attack happened, and with Loki, and they trying to get the Tesseract and the staff, because in New York there are 3 Infinity Stones there at one time, so they're all trying to get them, and you know, debauchery happens, and they don't get them exactly how they first planned, but what happens in those timelines is friggin' gold. I mean, Captain America versus himself and his older self in 2012, they fight, you know, and he, I mean, and he, you know, and the younger Captain America in 2012 has the older Captain America like in a headlock, and I love how the older Captain America goes, Bucky's alive, because you know the one from 2012 doesn't know that Bucky's alive. You know, that's his best friend from the past, and when he says it, it gives him a moment of pause where he can um, do the final blow to him, to you know, so he can get away and continue with his mission. And the other Cap is just hanging there because he used a scepter on them to mind control them. And that's one of the plot holes that I had with this movie. It's like, but I can explain it all the way at the end. But it's like he just left him mind controlled. The old Captain America in this timeline is now mind controlled by Captain America from the future. But anyway, that got a little confusing for me at the time I was watching it. But like I said, it was explained later, and I'll explain it to you later. Anyway, we get a lot of amazing stuff. You know, I can go on and on. You know, Tilda Swinton comes back as the Ancient One, and I love how she just hits him with, like, you know, the magical blow that separates the Hulk and Banner, and she has a conversation with Banner to make her realize that the Time Stone, they need the Time Stone to undo what stuff has done in their reality. And at first she's reluctant to give it to her, which of course she's supposed to be because she's the guardian of it. But once she realizes that Doctor Strange 5 years from now will just give it to him to make what's happening now with her happen, she knows to give it to him. So that was just brilliant. Like I said, brilliant writing, awesome comic book storyline come to life. Perfect, beautifully. So they get the stones, long story short, you know, oh, and Loki gets away with the Tesseract, you know, he portals away, you know, in the other timeline. So I think that's the direction they're going to go with this new Loki TV series that's coming out on Disney Plus in November. Looking forward to that. You know, they got a lot of good stuff coming, but I was like, aha, that's how he'll be alive in the show. So that was really cool. Like I said, smart writing. Anyway, they get all the stones and they come back and they make a gauntlet, and now we're into the last hour of the movie, and man, it is the best comic book stuff put to film ever in history. Is this moment where Hulk puts on the Infinity Gauntlet, or a Infinity Gauntlet made by Tony, but he puts it on, and you know, because they realize that he's the only one that can do it without dying. Then he puts it on, snaps his finger, and everybody that was snapped before is now back. Bam! Mission accomplished, until they look up and Thanos' ship is just right above the headquarters and just starts blasting the whole place, and the whole place is just blowing up and going, you know, to pieces everywhere, which I don't know how they all survived, but hey, it's a comic book movie, so little suspension of disbelief is okay. So they all survive. You know, they get out, and then it's just the epic moment of Hulk. I mean, I was going to say Hulk because I wish I would have got the Hulk versus Thanos, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But Captain America, Iron Man, and Thor versus Thanos. And it's a younger Thanos because, you know, throughout this timeline stuff, and I didn't really get into it, you know, the whole Nebula is connected to her older self in the other timeline. And Thanos from that timeline sees the plan of the Avengers. That he sees that he gets the stones and accomplishes his mission, but they're trying to stop him in the past. So he's going to go and stop them in the past, his past, which is their present, or never mind. Thanos' future is their present. So he's going to jump from their past into their future, and because all the stones are now there, they pretty much gathered the stones for him. So he's going to go, and he realizes that, you know, I accomplished my mission, but they stopped me, so I'm just going to kill everybody when I get the gauntlet this time. I'm just going to snap everybody in the universe out and just recreate the universe as I see it. And they're like, oh no. So they all attack him, and he just, I mean, they get some good blows in, but he's a powerful dude. And even in the comic book, so if you're like, how can the Avengers fight this guy? How come they can't win? Because Thanos is a literal badass in the comic books and in the movies. I thought they portrayed it perfectly because this is how it would really go down. That's how powerful Thanos is, even without the Infinity Gauntlet. But anyway, he's fighting everybody, and man, the moment where Thor is dual wielding Mjolnir and Stormbreaker going at it, and he still gets a little beat down, and then he summons Stormbreaker in the middle of the fight, and Thanos catches it before it gets to his hand and starts putting it on his chest like he got hit in Infinity War. And you know, you think even Thor is like, oh my gosh, this is just like I did him. So then you look, and off in the distance, Mjolnir's like laying in the debris, and it comes up and flies, and you think, okay, Thor's just going to grab it with his other hand and hit him like it would be totally a movie cliche. But no, it goes right past him, and friggin' Captain America wielding Mjolnir. Oh my God. The whole theater erupted. It was friggin' awesome. I erupted. Because that's straight out of the comic books. If you think, oh, that couldn't happen, nah, it happens in the comic books because Captain America is worthy to be Thor. And he wields it and starts beating on Thanos. But then Thanos gets the upper hand on him because even with Captain America wielding Mjolnir, he's not as powerful as Thanos. So we see that, and he starts just whooping on Captain America, even breaking his shield, kind of like the way that Tony Stark saw it in Age of Ultron in his vision, you know, that broken shield. And then Captain America's just like laid out. Iron Man's laid out. Thor's laid out. And you just have Thanos there just as a boss. Just like, good try. And Captain America kind of just dusts himself off. He tightens his shield up and just stands up. And all of Thanos' army is just falling down. I mean, not falling, but they're landing and coming down to just take on everybody. But it's not just everybody. It's just Captain America. And there's this one shot. I'd love to have a poster of it. But this one shot of Captain America on one side, and then Thanos' army. You know, so it's like Captain America wielding Mjolnir versus Thanos and his army. You know, just this one brief shot, just 1 second. But God, it was beautiful. It's etched in my brain. I loved it. And then you get, and Captain America's not afraid. Because that's what makes him Captain America. I mean, Thanos is a badass, yes, but Captain America has the heart, buddy. You know, he just, all right, I'll take on the whole army until I'm dead. Because this is what I do. This is how I roll. And then what does he do? What do you get? Captain, you hear me? You reading the cap? And it's Sam. And you know, Sam got dusted in Infinity War. He's like on your left. And then a portal, one of Doctor Strange's portals open up, and it's like everybody from Wakanda that got dusted there, you know, then 100 other portals open up, and the whole friggin' MCU just comes out to friggin' face Thanos and his army, and it's like everybody you've ever seen in all the movies is there to fight. And then it just shows them. Then you have the Avengers theme song playing as they're all like rushing in, and Thanos' army is rushing in. And at first I thought they were going to, because this movie has already been rolling for 2.5 hours. So I'm like, they're going to really end it with like them right before they hit, and then it's going to be like credits or something. You know, I was really thinking that the first time I watched it. I was like, no, they're not going to do this, and they don't. Everybody gets their moment. You see, I mean, even Howard the Duck is there with a gun shooting. Everybody in the MCU you've ever seen that's a hero or villain, well, not all the villains, but all the heroes show up, and they all get a small moment, even if it's just for a second. It's just so cool to see that everybody got a shot in. And I know a lot of people are crapping on this whole fan service thing, but this movie is fan service because we have been fans for 22 movies. It is, and that's what they needed to do. And I'm glad they did it because it is fans. We are the fans. They are servicing us by giving us this movie. So give us friggin' everything. So what do? All the female heroes come together in this one shot, and they just all like rah, roll into battle together. And I friggin' loved it because I thought that was awesome. Not just for let's show strong women, and I love strong women. Shout out to my girl Ridgely. But I love them. And just to see them all in one shot, I felt for the women watching these movies with their boyfriends that really didn't want to be there. It's like they got their moment. It's like we get 3 hours of, men fighting and everything, and we get 2 seconds of women just all together, like, rah! And people were like, I can't believe they did that for the fans. I'm like, of course they did. It was friggin' amazing. It was friggin' awesome. Well, to you women out there, I friggin' loved it. Okay, to you guys out there, you should have loved it too. Because hey, what's wrong with a badass woman? Anyway, nothing is the answer to that question. But anyway, we get that, and everybody, it just fights, and they defeat, and it ends up, Spider-Man comes out. Everybody that was on Titan, with Doctor Strange, the Guardians of the Galaxy, they all come out. Spider-Man shows up. Him and Tony have a moment, which was really cool. And like I said, everybody got their moment in this movie. So it's all of them fighting each other and showing all their little powers just in a second. Um, so I could just gasm about this for another hour, but I'm not going to take too much more time because I really want to get to the end. But anyway, Thanos tries to get the gauntlet on. Tony stops him. He looks over at Doctor Strange, and Doctor Strange goes, "This is your one chance." But he doesn't say it. He just goes, "One." And we, as film viewers and fans, know exactly what he's talking about. And Robert Downey Jr., Tony Stark looks over and he's like, "This is my one chance." So he leaps at Thanos, and Thanos just smacks him off of him, of course. And then he goes, "I'm inevitable." And he tries to snap his fingers to kill everybody because he thinks he has the stones all on this thing. And he just like, bam, looks over, no stones. Tony has all the stones on his gauntlet. And he goes, "Well, I am Iron Man." Bam! And I mean, the look on his face when he said I am Iron Man was friggin' awesome. Not just the quote. The quote was awesome because it's a callback to the very first movie when he says it at the very end of the movie, which when I saw the Iron Man for the very first time, the original one, when he said it at the end, I didn't like it when I first saw it. I was like, what superhero reveals his identity? Come on. I was really upset about it. Not upset like I can't believe they did that. But, I was just like, what? Come on. But it grew on me after a while, and I understood it once they revealed their plan of why they wanted to do it like that. I understood it. So when he said it in this movie, I friggin' loved it. It was perfect. It was awesome. And he snaps all of the people that traveled back in time or forward in time with Thanos. He snapped them all away. He may have snapped other people. We really don't know. We just know that army got dusted, but it kills Tony Stark. And that moment when he's like up against the girder or whatever, the debris, and Spider-Man's just like apologizing to him, and stuff. I mean, I felt it. I was like, man. And then Pepper just kind of, it's okay. We're going to be okay. I mean, that moment was amazing. She knows that he did this to save the universe, and he accomplished his own personal mission to save everyone. And like I said, remember before when I was talking about how Tony Stark originally didn't care about anybody but himself, yet he sacrificed himself for the entire universe. Bam! It's friggin' awesome comic book stuff, man. That's just what makes comic books great, because they're just friggin' awesome stories. And this was an awesome story for Tony Stark from beginning to end, and they ended them beautifully. Very well done, in my opinion, guys. Loved it. Then we get, the funeral scene, which, oh, you know what? I didn't even talk about Black Widow dying. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, guys. Let me go back in time. Let me use my Infinity Gauntlet. All right, there's this time travel thing where, in the second hour, Scarlett Johansson, Black Widow, and Hawkeye go to get the Soul Stone. And this is one thing I did have a problem with, that they should have known that one of them was going to have to die. But, I've read some stuff, and they say that, well, there could have been another way to get the stone if they went down to the bottom or something like that, of that chasm. They could have gotten it, but I don't know. But I just know the Soul Stone, you need a soul to get the Soul Stone. But anyway, They should have known, but they didn't. But I did love the dynamic where you know that they love each other because they've been, it's been a through line through all the Avenger movies that they had a connection back in the day. And for them to have to sacrifice one or the other, we knew as fans that they loved each other. So if it didn't matter which one died, the other one loved it. So they would have got the stone. But when they were fighting each other on top of the mountain with Red Skull just chilling like a boss, I loved it. And then Hawkeye jumps, and then she jumps after him. I thought Hawkeye was going to die. I really did. They got me. And then she falls and dies. That sucked. A lot of people are saying they didn't. Black Widow really isn't that big of a deal. She's just a person that shoots guns, but she got the whole team together. They sent her in to get Bruce Banner to recruit the Hulk. I mean, and she's the only one on the team that could calm Hulk down. How do you say? I don't understand these people that are saying that Black Widow really didn't mean that much because she wasn't a superhero. She didn't have any powers or anything. Hey, buddy, Batman doesn't have any powers. He's one of the most powerful superheroes in comic book history. So Black Widow is not as powerful as Batman, but just to compare that it's just a normal person, you can be normal and be amazing. If it wasn't for Black Widow, there wouldn't be an Avengers team. So, and she's been here since Iron Man 2. So she's been around for 10 friggin' years, longer than some of the other characters. Most of the characters. Really, it was just Iron Man, then Incredible Hulk, and then Iron Man 2, and there she was. So we only had Iron Man and Hulk, and then we got Black Widow. She's been with us ever since. So when she died, I was affected by it. Not like, emotionally, but I was just like mentally. I was like, man, I can't believe that she went like that, but I like the fact that they wrote it like that, so because Hawkeye needed to get his family back, and she did it for him because she doesn't have any family. They are her family, so she did it for him and everyone else, but mainly because she wanted him to be happy, and has always wanted him to be happy. So I got it, and I loved it, so bam. So let me go back to the future, guys, using my gauntlet. Okay, anyway, the funeral at the end was awesome, and I love how they still had that, the proof that Tony Stark has a heart. His first little arc reactor he wore in his chest, floating off into the lake. I love that, and it showed all the heroes from the MCU. They span through them. So you see all the characters there at the funerals, and I thought that was amazing. And then Captain America goes back. They put all the Infinity Stones in thing because that was the deal. Like, you can get all the stones, but you have to go and put them back where you got them. After everything's cool, so the other timelines can be, restored. So he does that, and he takes Thor's hammer. So he takes it back to when he got it from Asgard back in time. But anyway, and then he shows up, because he's supposed to just come back in 5 seconds. He's supposed to just appear, but he doesn't. And they look over, and he's sitting on a bench, and it's old Captain America that went back in time and didn't become, he became Captain America, but didn't go down that path. He just instead had that first dance with Peggy, and then, married her, which you see he has a wedding ring on. You kind of put all this stuff in your head. And, so it was just so cool. And he gives the shield to Falcon to pass on the mantle of Captain America. Even though he'll always be Captain America, Falcon's not going to be Captain America. He's just going to be Captain Falcon with Captain America's shield. But I love the whole passing of the torch because he's old now and he's lived his life. He's lived the whole hero life in the MCU, and he got what he wanted. He got to marry Peggy, have that dance, and fall in love, and have the normal life that he always wanted, And I just thought that was so amazing that Captain America got everything he wanted. He saved the universe, and he got a life that was normal. So, man, just like I said, guys, friggin' awesome writing. And, of course, the movie ends. Sad but true, but we didn't get as many deaths as I thought we were going to get. My one nitpick about the entire movie is that I didn't get, a Hulk scene. Of course, I love the whole Professor Hulk thing, and I know a lot of people had problems with that, but that's straight out of the comics. And the way I rationalized it in my head, why they didn't, put a Hulk scene in, because that would have really taken away from everybody else. You know, if we want some good Hulk scenes, we can watch The Incredible Hulk, we can watch the first Avengers, we can watch Age of Ultron. You know, there are plenty of great Hulk, Thor Ragnarok. So there are like 4 or 5 movies where you can see the Hulk that you know from the comic books. This is something that's totally different that's in the comic books that not many people have seen or know about the Hulk. Is that he can be this way. He could be the Hulk with Bruce Banner's mind. I, I loved it. So I understood why they didn't give it to us. And we'll get plenty of other Hulk stuff. But for this movie, they needed to do it the way they did it so everybody else could get their due. And that's what I really wanted. I feel like we didn't get everybody else's due in the past 21 movies. Then they just throw it all to me in 1 hour. Bam, bam, bam. Here's everybody's moment. Here's everybody's moment. So I'm happy with it. Even though I wish I would have seen it as a fan, I was still, as a fan, satisfied that they didn't because I understood it. So try to understand why you're not going to get that in this movie. That it was either that or everybody else. So I'd rather have everybody else's moments than just have one Hulk moment. But anyway, I love Professor Hulk in this movie. I thought they did an excellent job with portraying him. And so that's my spew. There's no end credit scene, but you know they reference every character and give. That's another thing. They give every character, every actor, their moment at the end of this film. And at the very end, instead of a credit scene, you know, you just hear Iron Man's ting, ting, ting his hammer on metal 3 times. You know, and I think that was to call back the very first Iron Man. I think that was actual, you know, sound effect from the first Iron Man movie when he made that first Iron Man armor, which I thought was just another brilliant way to write in the end of this movie. So nothing to speculate on coming forward. I know a lot of people are wanting, you know, a Fantastic Four reference or an X-Men reference. I was wanting it. I understand because X-Men are actually my favorite comic book franchise. So I'm waiting for them to do this. I'm glad that Disney bought Fox and now we're going to get X-Men in the MCU, but it's going to be a few years, so don't expect it anytime soon. I'm not, but I know they're going to do it right, and that's what I'm so happy for. I can't wait for that moment. But I got everything I wanted out of this movie. I hope you guys did. Whew! Sorry, I just spewed the whole movie on you, but the whole movie is one big spoiler. You can't talk about one scene in this movie without spoiling everything. So that's my take on it. I'm sure I'm missing a lot, just like I missed the whole Scarlett Johansson and Jeremy Renner scene. So sorry I had to snap back into that. But anyway, if there's something I missed that you guys loved, let me know in the comments below because this movie needs to be discussed. And I just really want to know your thoughts on it, guys. What did you think of Avengers Endgame? Are you as invested as I am? Did you love it, hate it? You know, in the comments, you can spoil all you want. You just let me know what you loved and what you didn't like. I want to know, guys, because I'm very interested. But anyway, thanks for putting up with me for this much time. I had to get it out, so there it all is. And guys, I hope that you have a great day today because this has been awesome talking to you. Remember to like my videos and subscribe to my channel. And as always, make yourself happy every day. And the only way to do that is to remember the only thing stopping you is you stopping. Bam!